still for me, the focus must be in the next few months till the end of the year on the academy, to get the things right, to get the coaching education right.
Continuity that Lutz and I had in me understanding his vision and me thinking that I could help him achieve that vision was fantastic.
Welcome to the first ever The City Voice podcast. I'm joined today by two very special guests. Lutz, it's fantastic to have you here, the Sporting Director of St. Louis City SC. But it's not about you today, Lutz. It's about your latest hire, John Hackworth. John, welcome to the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, I'm excited to be here.
So I'm going to run through a little bit of a bio about your time in soccer. Correct me if anything is wrong here. So you are a US soccer coaching education instructor for the A, B, and C licenses. In 2007, you started the US Soccer Development Academy, where you served as the first ever technical director. In 2009, you moved into MLS, becoming the first assistant and youth development coordinator for MLS expansion team Philadelphia Union. You led 3 teams to the World Cup as head coach, making 2 quarterfinals and a round of 16, 1 World Cup as an assistant under John Ellinger. You became an assistant coach for the US men's national team, assisting Bob Bradley in qualifying the USA for the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa. And you won a USL Championship final in 2018 for Louisville City FC, and you reached the final in 2019. That's quite the bio. So let's, before we get into the soccer, let's talk about your relationship with St. Louis in general. Like, how long has it been?
Well, I've come to this city many times to coach, and when I was a college coach in the same conference as St. Louis, but really, it with the national team program, there was so much talent here in St. Louis, and it's been a mecca for talent in this country for so long. And in my humble opinion, it's the hotbed for soccer in the United States.
Fantastic. And are you excited to be back? How's the move been?
It's been great. Really excited getting to learn the city and the club, and it's been really a fantastic start to it.
Amazing. So you arrive as a director of coaching. That's quite a specific role, and it sounds pretty unique. Like, could you share some of the specifics of what that role is?
Sure. I mean, I think I'm coming here to assist Lutz in building what we think can be the best MLS club in this country. And that's going to take a lot of, certain efforts to make sure that our coaches all understand the philosophy of how we want to play, how our methodology wants to be taught to all of our players, and then building the program. Right now we just have 2 academy teams. We're going to build a reserve team and a first team, and all of that is going to require a lot of attention, a lot of detail as we build this thing out.
Lutz, we were speaking in the green room a little bit before, and you are very excited about the signing of John. Could you tell us a little bit about like what attracted you to his talents and like what you did to make the deal happen?
Yeah, I think you already read out the bio, so there is lots of important things, I think, which exactly we need to have here as a club. The mixture. John basically ticks all the boxes, being a coaching instructor, which is helping to mentor all our coaches, having a lot of MLS experience himself, but also just simply knowing the landscape of the whole of US soccer in and out. I don't think there is many other guys who have that complete knowledge of that market here in the United States. And on top of that, he's a fantastic person.
John, I don't know how the
Thanks, Lutz.
I don't know how the process works in soccer, but I'm assuming that there was some sort of interview process that you went for, or some sort of meeting that you had. When did you realize that this was going to be a good match for the both of you? Like, what attracted you to the project that Lutz is building out?
Really, it was two things. When I first met with Lutz and he explained his vision of what this club was going to be, and specifically the style of play that he wanted every team in our club, from the first team all the way down to the youngest team, it fit a lot of the things that I believe very strongly in. And those principles of how you play are really important. So the continuity that Lutz and I had in me understanding his vision and me thinking that I could help him achieve that vision was fantastic. And the other part was the club, really the ownership and their idea of what this club would mean to St. Louis. And as we grow this thing out, it was really clear to me that I was with, an excellent leader in Lutz, but also the ownership group had wonderful ideas about what they want this club to become.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about you as a coach, because you've got quite a storied history. And I wanted to go right back to the beginning. Like, before you became a coach, what position did you play? And what sort of player were you?
I think I was a hard-nosed defender. I would say that my mentality and my competitiveness probably allowed me to reach a level that maybe some of my colleagues, coaches, and teammates, didn't think I could reach. But at the same time, I was still playing. I was already starting my coaching career, so it really helped me become a better player when I started trying to teach the game as well.
When did you realize that you wanted to be a coach? How early in the process was that?
It wasn't that early, to be fair. I think it's when you have mentors. My college coach was Walt Chiswitz, who was a huge figure in U.S. soccer. He was a former national team coach, former director of coaching education, and he's the one that kind of recognized that, I had some qualities to be a coach. I just listened and did what he said. He said, you're going to take this team, you're going to coach them, you're going to do this, and that's how it started. And then I just grew into believing that this was truly what I needed to do.
In your, I think you picked up your first major coaching job at 28 years old. Lutz has got a bit of a history of working with coaches that are very young. Like, what did you learn about coaching in your formative years? Like, what's the difference between now and then?
A lot. I mean, when you're a young coach, you tend to make a lot of mistakes and you learn on the job. I don't know, in this profession, you need to gather experiences and then reflect on the good, the bad, and the indifferent. And as a 28-year-old head coach of a Division I program and a good Division I program, that had aspirations of winning national championships, there was a lot of lessons there that were very valuable. But I had really good mentors. I already mentioned Walt Chiswitz. His assistant, who became my boss at Wake Forest, was Jay Vidovich. And, these are two of the best coaches that I could have ever learned from. So that really helped me as I became a head coach, and all of a sudden I was a decision maker at 28.
Amazing. And you then made a jump to national team level, working with US men's national team. What made you jump into quite a different area, and I suppose an area that has a different type of coaching or a different type of mentality?
I'll tell you, a lot of my colleagues thought I was crazy, including my wife, by the way, because it's as a college coach, it's not that it's an easy job, but there's more job security. If you're good at what you do, and I had proved in a short amount of time that we were successful, you can have a long career, and the financial rewards of that are sustainable. But, I had mentors that, showed me that the national team, specifically international soccer, is the way to grow. And I felt like I needed to grow. I was ambitious. I wanted to become a better coach. I still do, and that drive to be better, nothing is more important to me as a coach than representing, your own country.
Lutz, you have experience both sides of the coin when it comes to club and the national side of things. What does international experience bring to the resume, or your overall profile as a coach? Like, is that important?
Very important. I think it gives you a different approach. How to deal with different mentalities, how to think outside the box, how to be open-minded, how to still learn from others all over the world. And I think to be part of a national team setup where you suddenly play against completely different styles of play, that's something where you just can pick up so many little details which will help you to also sharpen your own profile, to pick up things you want to let influence your own style of coaching. So I really believe that if a coach, a young coach or even an older coach have the opportunity to coach at international level, really like dig in and use this chance, because it just opens the horizon.
I know that you place great onus on the person. Like, spoken to you a lot about, the type of players and the type of characters that you want to build and have around the club. In international football coaching, is it less about tactics on the coaching field? Is it more about relationship building?
I mean, you don't have that much time when you're coaching an international team to work every day with the players for months and years on tactical details. So I think that's what they do usually at their club, what they usually do at home. So when they're coming to you with the national team, you have 6 days, 5 days, 3 days to work with them, having another game in between. So it's more about to really get into the mind of the players, build relationships, get kind of like build a circle of trust where you know what the players really can give you. But to change a player's tactical approach in that really short of time is extremely difficult. But to pick the players so you know what to expect from them, because you can see on the field what exactly they can give you. I think that's the biggest actually challenge for a national team coach, is to pick the right players, what he sees during the season at club level.
And John, you had some pretty amazing experiences with a number of teams. Could you pick out some of the highlights of that time in your career? What really stood out for you in that first phase of international coaching?
Yeah, I mean, look, going to World Cup qualifying in CONCACAF, Lutz just mentioned it. International soccer is an incredibly challenging task, but when you do it in CONCACAF, when you're going to Central America, whether you're playing in Guatemala or in Honduras or Costa Rica, you are presented with challenges that the normal, footballer doesn't even understand. Whether that's, the grass isn't cut, or there's rocks in the field, or the officials are absolutely against you, or that you're in the hotel and they circle the hotel all night with, these huge stereos blaring at you. You inevitably come up against things that you can't even think about. And early in my coaching career with the U.S. national team, the under-17s, I got to see all of that. I got to experience all of that. And then to try to have the pressure of qualifying for a World Cup in that environment was incredible. And then the exact opposite happens when you go to the FIFA World Cup, because then it's all the best teams and everything's so professional and the fields are immaculate. What a difference it is. But it does. It really helps you learn and grow.
Brilliant. So in 2009, you made the leap into MLS. You took up a role with Philadelphia Union, working with Peter Novak as a youth development coordinator. What made you jump out of one frying pan into another? Like that's a completely different type of pressure, but not just. It's a startup. You jumped into a startup culture. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, again, for the second time in my career, probably people thought I was a little crazy. I had an opportunity to continue with the men's national team and go to a senior World Cup. And instead, I leave right after we qualify and go to the MLS. But I always think of choosing my own path for how I can grow. And I knew that ultimately I wanted to be in professional soccer. And Peter Novak presented this opportunity for me to come be his assistant and build an academy and a startup club in Philadelphia. And it was just an opportunity I felt like I had to take for my own personal growth and really the experience of being at that level. It's one that was a challenging decision, but I wouldn't do anything different.
So Lutz, the keen eye amongst the fans will notice that there are some parallels between where your project is right now, where that project was in 2009. Did you look at his experience working in almost a startup soccer culture? Like, was that of value to it to you when you were looking to bring John to the club?
Not really. I think it's a great coincidence. Perfect fit for us because he went through exactly that process what we're going through right now. But there is so many other exciting things in John's personality as a coach and as a I would call it as a man manager, which caught my eye. I think we think, sleep, dream, drink, and eat football all day long, and having the same wavelength on how we're looking at things. That was for me the key role. And as I mentioned before, for him being an American, know everything about American soccer, youth national team, men's national team, USL, MLS, being a coaching instructor, the college leagues. I mean, there is such a big landscape, and he's been there. He's done everything basically, and having now that other little box about Philadelphia Union being a startup. I mean, it just makes things. There's a lot of similarities where definitely I will knock on the office door at 6:45 in the morning and say, "Hey, John, think back in 2009. What did he do by then?" And then we will figure out a plan.
Lutz, I can just tell you that we are far ahead of where we were in 2009, and that's a really good sign for hopefully our success going forward.
So just a last point on Philadelphia Union. Some might say that there are elements of their playing style that live in the same family as the playing style that you are creating at the club right now. Is that something that you two have spoken about? Like, is the style of football that you like to play aligned with, where Lutz is taking this?
You asked earlier, and that's the one thing. Like, that's the most important factor to me when I heard Lutz describe his vision of the style of play, a very aggressive, pressing, more direct way. I think it is I would say that at this point, modern soccer at the highest level, this is exactly what you have to do. And it's incredibly challenging to do, which, again, from my perspective, I think, this is an opportunity for us to build something really special, something unique. I don't think we're going to copy Philly. I think we're going to separate ourselves when you see our teams play. I think there will be some differences, but there is some characteristics there that are similar. But that's what attracted me the most to this opportunity.
Fantastic. Lutz, have you ever faced a John Hackworth team at competitive level?
I haven't faced him on the field, but I followed him for a long time. So the U17 national team World Cups, I was there in my role for Hoffenheim, looking at players. I always watched the MLS. I also had some information and some views when he was in Philly. And when I was here last year, when I arrived, John was still coaching in Louisville, and he played a few games here in St. Louis, where I just wanted to see how does he play the same football he played with the national team at the USL top level. And he's here now.
And Lutz, a bit of a cheeky question that isn't on my list of questions, but there is some crossover of players that you have both coached or worked with at the same time. When you are, looking to bring a coach in, do you speak to the players to get the inside line on coaching standards or how they are as people, or is that too secret?
No, of course. I mean, I think that's my job to get as much information about a guy I highly evaluate myself. But there is still some things I want to find out from other people. So of course I had a few talks with a few former players of John, and all the information.
The group chat. I would love to see the Lutz group chat.
That was all the information actually we needed, and all good.
Fantastic. And John, you, I said last question on your experience when you were in the MLS, but there were some highs and lows. What what are the most important experiences that you took from your time there that you hope to bring here? Like what are the biggest lessons that you took from that time?
Yeah, look, there's a lot, but I would say that learning how to navigate through the MLS as a single entity league is extremely difficult. The way that sign players and that process is very different from every other league in the world. And, that experience, from building a club from scratch in Philadelphia, I feel like a lot of the lessons that I learned there will be very valuable for us going forward.
Great. So I'm gonna shift over to I did some digging. I went very deep on the internet and I found some great stuff. Yeah, some good YouTube videos of you looking absolutely pristine in 2008. You were at the Development Academy Winter Showcase and you said this: "We're looking to do everything possible to raise the level of soccer in this country." So skip forward to 2015 when you returned to the national setup. Were you excited by the quality of players that you had at your disposal the second time around?
Yeah, it was a tremendous jump. I can't. When I had the opportunity to then take over the under-17s again, and the quality of players that we have, you see them now in Europe. You see them now with the full national team. Nothing makes a coach look better than really good players, and I certainly had a lot of really good players and some difficult choices. Lutz mentioned it earlier. When you're a national team coach, your selection of who you're bringing into that team is really the essential means of how you're going to be successful. I had great choices, because the player pool was large and the quality was excellent.
Lutz, question for you. So just going to reel off some names that get me excited just looking at them. Serginho Dest, Barcelona. Josh Sargent, Norwich. Timothy Weah, Lille. Pulisic. Zach Steffen, Weston McKennie, John Brooks. Is this a golden generation, or is this a testament to the improving standards in the MLS?
I think I have to give you a very long answer for that one. I wouldn't call it a golden generation. I would call it a generation where lots of good work was put in the coaching and the development of these players, and having such a big country with such a big number of players, where athleticism is something natural, I would say, in the United States. I think it is a natural process that if the coaching gets better, if the league gets better, and the MLS makes big steps in becoming one of the best leagues in the world, and give it another few years, I think really there will be more and more top players coming out from this league. But also now with the MLS Next leagues, where academy football gets into higher standard, where there's more focus on that, I think that the US is generally on a really good way moving forward. You mentioned some names. There is lots of other talented players already in Europe. But I think it shouldn't just be the only goal to get all these players to Europe. I think you also should keep some of the top players in the country, find the right mix of that. But definitely, I think it's a mix. It's a mix of everything you mentioned. And I think the direction the United States now took in the game of soccer is definitely the right one, where it probably, when the World Cup arrives in 2026, maybe can be even a bigger story.
And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've coached all of the players that I just mentioned on that list, and I would throw the same question to you. Like, is something cooking in America? Are we going to see a World Cup come home at some point?
I certainly hope so, and I believe it's absolutely possible. One of the things that in my travels around the world, our international counterparts, they don't really give the U.S. a lot of respect. We have to earn that. And the only way we can earn it is by being successful at the highest level. So when you talk about, being an international competition and having these young players come through, it's exciting. But it is an evolution. There's a lot of people that have been working in this country for a long time to get it to this point. And as Lutz just said, we're not there yet. And we're still growing, and the MLS and it's getting better every year, and we hope to now harness that here in St. Louis and provide the next step even further.
I'm excited just listening to this. So let's talk a little bit about the future. John, without giving too much away, what are your short-term objectives at the club?
Well, really to try to find the right players to bring in here. And, we have a team that will start play for us next year, and that is a priority for us right away. We have our current academy, both players and coaches who we want to develop. And that is another priority for us. This is always with the mindset of how we grow and become what Lutz's vision is of our club. It starts with our playing philosophy and our teams, and that's a big job. There's a lot to do there. And as Lutz mentioned, we're going to be in the office early and there sometimes late and 7 days a week. But it's a really fun and interesting project to be a part of.
Lutz, I don't think people understand quite the job that you took on here and how many things you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. How does John change your day-to-day moving forward?
Well, it definitely makes my life a little bit easier because, having our three pillars with the community, with the academy and the pro team, it's a lot of things which happening all day long in the sports department. So I think, I won't be in the early mornings alone anymore in the office. I think John will be there with me, where we will be able to make the right plans and also make the right moves. But definitely to talk about the responsibilities, to put some key responsibilities on somebody else's shoulders, to also work a lot with the coaches. So I think we really can share a lot of knowledge there. But I think it won't change my day from the hours. It just probably will make it a little bit easier and get lots of good opinions and lots of details from John in there. That we can move forward quicker, stronger, and even more focused on the key elements.
Let's have a fun fact, Lutz. Tell everybody what time you get up every day.
I always get up at 4:40.
4:40.
But it's my dog's fault, though. It's not by choice. My dog is there at 4:40, and then that's it for me. I'm on the road.
On the road. John,
can I just mention that I'm not waking up at 4:40?
You're not up at 4:40. It's not the same.
I'll be in the office earlier, but I might wake up a little later than that.
I'm glad. 4:40. That's too much.
Nice to have the boss to do that for
me.
So.
Just wake up to the stream of emails.
Right.
So, John, to play the aggressive, tactical, intelligent style that Lutz is looking for, like, what sort of things are you looking for in players beyond just sort of physical attributes?
Yeah, we've built out some specific player profiles, and in a simple way of explaining it, you need to be a complete player to play the style. You also must meet the highest demands of our sport at every position. So there are going to be really good players where they might be excellent in one area, but if they are not holistic, if they are not good in terms of, their ability to recognize transition moments and their mentality and, whether it's their engine or their touch or their decision making, we're looking for players ultimately that have the ability to play this game at the highest level and to really meet the demands that we are placing on them.
And I mentioned this earlier, but you were a head coach at 28, the youngest head coach in the NCAA Division I soccer at the time. How will that experience help you mentor the coaches that we have at the club? Because we've got a young roster of coaches as well.
Yeah, I've used that experience a lot in coaching education because at that point I knew there were a lot of things that I didn't know and I had to grow and learn. And if I can come here and just mentor the coaches that we have and help them maybe learn those lessons a little earlier, just point out the small details and try to continually provide them some feedback as they reflect on their own ability. I hope that I can continue to do that. I had a wonderful experience at 28, but it was daunting, and I did make some mistakes. I also, we were pretty successful. So, I knew at that point that this was a long-term career that I wanted to continue to grow in, and I still do. I still think I can get better in every facet.
Lutz, what does a hire of John's caliber say about the ambition of the project that we have here in St. Louis?
Well, I think it's a clear statement where we want to go, where we want to be in the future. You know, we said it very early. We want to have the best academy, the best development system in North America. That's a big goal. I believe we can achieve that. We also said we want to be a successful, challenging, very competitive MLS team from day one. And that just underlines why we hired a guy like John Hackworth.
And final question. It's a shared question. We're going to end on a shared question. What does good look like to you both in a year's time?
I would say that we have a clear plan of where we want to go. And in a year's time, if we are on track to do that, meaning have a reserve team that is playing the type of style and being successful at it, having young players from our academy involved in that team and playing, and having the fundamental foundation to bring a first team in the following year, and having players specifically and coaches that are really knowledgeable about the details of what our style of play is going to be like, top to bottom. And Lutz mentioned it also, though, you know, one of the pillars of what we want to accomplish at this club is the community. And really, you know, having St. Louis have the soccer history that it does, and having a community club, I think is something that we're very focused on trying to build. So there's a lot of work to do, but I think if we can get a year from now and have those things ready for the opening of our stadium and our first team, we'll be in a great position to do so.
Lutz?
Yeah, if we take that day to day in 1 year, I think the ideal thing for me would be you see in all our academy teams and in our LDL team a clear handwriting, how we want to play, how we want to do our style, our DNA. I think in 1 year, I want us to be very, very active in the community, very active in coaching the coaches, in coaching development, in really working in the grassroots. I think this is really important on a long-term future. And of course, that's exactly the crucial time when we will be just in the middle of really planning our first team squad, already have some names, probably sign some players, already slowly agreeing things, finalizing the names we want to have in that team. I think that's what happens from 1 year on. Now, still for me, the focus must be in the next few months till the end of the year on the academy, to get the things right, to get the coaching education right, to get everybody on the same page. And then we can move on with big steps towards the LDL team and then the pro team.
Fantastic. Well, that concludes our first ever The City Voice podcast. John, good luck with the new role. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm excited about you being at the club, and I'm sure the fans will be too. Lutz, absolute pleasure to have you welcoming John. And if you're a fan and you're listening to this podcast, we'd love to hear feedback. If you've got any suggestions for who you'd like to see on the podcast in the future, please let us know. And on that note, I'll say bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.